preface, we do have internships that are available. So just something to keep in mind if this is something that's interesting for you. Yeah, I mean, we're here to talk about supply chain, international sales, growing exports. That's ultimately what our business is founded on. But a bit about myself. My name is Andrew Lawlor, and based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and been with IBT Online as a business development manager for the last 2 years or so. I'm sorry, for my background, I studied at Western Michigan University and graduated a few years ago with a marketing degree, digital marketing. And that's kind of how I stumbled upon IBT Online in the marketing space, the marketing sphere. And so what IBT Online is a company that works with exporters throughout the US, manufacturers, agribusiness, farmers, manufacturers of farming equipment, to continue to grow their international online presence. And I suppose in this presentation today, I'll be talking about some of the basics, some of the bare bones, some of the best practices that we see in the international online space, for not only websites, but also for, international marketing, social media, and search engine marketing too. So I think as Subbu mentioned, I've got about 30 to 40 minutes for a presentation, and at the end we can take some questions if you guys have any. And Subbu, is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, you should be able to do that. I haven't changed any settings, so it should work.
Let's take a look.
At the bottom, yes, that's the one. Yes, thank you.
Wait, does it come through okay?
Yes, thank you.
Sharing them. Sorry, 1 second. I decided to share on the other screen.
I just wanted to mention that I recorded, and we will keep that in our YouTube channel, but it will be unlisted, so you don't have to worry about that. I just wanted to mention that there are a couple of students that are missing, and down the road, if they want, they can always go and verify that. And I also ask questions based on the invited speaker, so these videos can really help you go back and revisit some of the things that are being shared. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks so much. And yeah, I mean, I've just created a short presentation here, just kind of some bits and pieces, what I think might be most important and most relevant for you students and potential interns looking at, jobs or positions in the export world, the international sales world, or just supply chain world. And kind of how we see the future of international sales growing over the next few years. So why digital? Why now? Is a big question that we get from a lot of our manufacturers or the agribusinesses that we work with on a day-to-day basis. And we work with a lot of researchers and a lot of organizations that do research on digital sales, digital marketing, supply chain issues, supply chain challenges. Why now? There's a lot of different reasons why. Some of which you might say the pandemic, how it's increased the support to the online world, how it's increased the lack of travel. But as you can see here in this study that was done, over 300, there's out of the total deals that have been created through sales professionals, they have increased 300% in size and deal size since the pandemic had started. And this is because of the digital side, the digital wave, because people are able to interact online through Zoom calls, but also use their websites more efficiently, their marketing programs like social media and search engine marketing more efficiently, and ultimately drives 90% more likely to exceed their quota as a whole. The world is online, and ultimately for what this means in our space, it's our clients, our prospects, our future employees, our suppliers, they're all searching online in their local online environments. Not only if you're in the US, but also if you're in Korea, searching on the Korean search engines or social media platforms, or in Mexico, and the same way. The new online normal is effectively using business development tools like localized websites, online marketing, email marketing, but market to market. And I'll talk about just how specific and how detailed this might be. So here's a few different trends that we've seen kind of up that we've seen growing, for the past couple of years, and now trending towards being mainstream. Obviously, co-working spaces are a huge resources to different organizations, being able to recruit and support your organization from not only in your city, your state, your country, but worldwide. For example, IBT Online is the company that's run completely online and completely in co-working spaces. And this is a trend that's only going to increase, even in the years into the late 2020s.
Andrew, just a quick question. Co-working spaces, you mean some kind of like an innovation hub where different companies rent a space and work together? Is that what you refer to as co-working space?
Yep, that's exactly it. And forgive me for skipping past that. A co-working space, there's a lot of different organizations and companies now, like Spaces or Regus, or there's a few others, I guess, that are out there that allow businesses to occupy and rent, office space, as opposed to, owning your own building or owning your own office floor. It's very a cost efficient way and allows for more flexible and remote work. And also obviously the increase in Zoom, which we've all seen, as it's here to stay, and the numbers show it. The numbers, are behind the fact that Zoom is productive, and Zoom is able to bring in, quarterly revenue at an increased pace. So what we see is the global state of digital, and this is something that we've updated over the last few months. The total population, we have 8 billion people in the world, and 67% of those people are unique mobile phone users. So about 67% of the people in the world have a phone, and 62% of them use the internet on a daily basis, with 58% being active on social media. So what does this mean in terms of the internet usage on a day-to-day basis? Well, we see that over the last year, there's been an increase in 4% of 4% increase in internet users. 4% might not seem like a lot, but it was 192 million people that were added to the internet within the last year. And this is a number that's been increasing quite largely. When you look at the actual time spent per day, it's 7 hours, and percentage of users using the internet via mobile phones is increasing to 92%. So PCs are kind of being thrown out the window when you think of consumers, or you think of customers that are using their online tools to research, to learn more about companies. They're doing it on their phones. They're doing it for a large amount of time, and it's continuing to increase. And again, it's growing. You'll see that the mobile users percentage-wise is growing at a faster uptick than the population is. The internet users 4% as opposed to the population at plus 1% per year. Active social media plus 10%, 424 million social media users have been added in the last year. It's a growing industry, and it's something that it will be easy to take advantage of in the future. So digital strategies is no longer a nice thing to have, as before the pandemic, it was often looked at as something that was complementary, but now it's a necessity to interact with your clients, to interact with your customers. So here's a few different things that we can go through. This first section is all about localized websites. What is a localized website? Why is it useful? And then also, how can you support those localized websites with search engine marketing and social media marketing? So we have here two core business development tools that we've seen a lot of clients, a lot of companies look towards to increase their online presence. And this is to, work with more international clients overseas, attract more international clients overseas, and continue to build their online presence, but in an international form. So the two different ways that are very cooperative with each other is the website part of it, and also the online marketing side of it. So these are again cooperative. They work hand in hand, and they're geared towards increasing that online presence abroad. So as an example here, we take a look at a company. For example, we'll look at Nike. What are they doing in the US? Well, they've got a website, they've got a social media campaign, they've got SEO, and it's all focused on US consumers. But also, what else do they do in France or in Brazil? Well, they have the same exact system, the same exact dedicated resources just for those markets. So in France, they have a French website. They have French SEO geared towards the French Google search engines, and they also have French social media platforms that are geared
Andrew?
toward. Oh,
Just a
Suba,
quick
please.
thing. SEO, that's probably a new term for some of our students. Why not you talk a little bit about SEOs? How does it work, and why is it important in today's, internet world?
Of course, and yeah, I've got a lot of acronyms here. I think I get too caught up in this sometimes, and SEO is certainly a big part of this, and it's something that I actually will expand into a little bit deeper as we go on. But SEO stands for search engine optimization, which is ultimately you think about it as Google.com. Whenever you type in a relevant keyword, a relevant search result, you type in shoes. What comes up? You see Nike, you see Adidas, you see Hoka, you see all these brands that pop up on websites. Well, SEO is the function that your website has to be relevant to a search query. So SEO is something that's popular, but it's also it's country specific. It's market focused. And so the search results, the search queries that individuals have in France are going to be completely different than the search results and search queries that people have here in the US. So SEO is just important it's an optimization function of your website. It's making sure that you're number one on each search result that you're relevant to as a company. And I hope that was a good starter explanation, but I'll definitely be going into a deeper dive as we go on here. And again, the dedicated presence could be replicated in Brazil. So a very common question that we get, the idea of localized websites, of building a website localization is, building a completely new website in France or in Argentina or in the UK or in Mexico. And, a common response is, why can't I just use my US website to target these audiences internationally? And the main answer to that is that search engines are localized, and take it a step forward, Google is localized. The Google.com that we use here in the US is completely different than the Google that they use in the UK. The Google.co.uk or Google.ar in Argentina, Google.mx in Mexico. These are things that are completely separate, completely relevant results depending on the market, depending on what city you're in, even the state that you're in. So let's take it a step further. As an example here, I've got colleagues here that are based in London in the UK, and obviously myself that I'm based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We put this to the test. So we both have dogs, me and my colleague. I've got a dog sitting here, and we searched up squeakless dog toys. And also my colleague is in the same situation on google.co.uk. She searched up squeakless dog toys. So what do we see? In my results, we see something that are very common to you and I. We see chewy.com, we see amazon.com, we see yahoo.com, some search results that are some companies and organizations, brands that are very relevant to us, Petco. In the UK version, we see things that, frankly, myself, I've never heard of before, but are very relevant to them. She sees Beco, she sees Pets at Home, zooplus.co.uk, Lords and Labradors.co.uk, or even Amazon.co.uk. So you can see here how we have the same search query, but depending on the actual search engine that you're using is going to differ your search results. And localization, is a little bit different because it also involves translation. And when you look at translation from country to country, these keywords could be a little bit different. A very common, language that we often optimize our websites for is Spanish. But the Spanish spoken in Spain is completely different than Spanish spoken in Mexico. A very common mistake and change that happens in Mexico. Some of our clients are in the automotive industry, and so they decide to use the word auto because 73% of Mexicans use the word auto instead of coche. And in Spain, it's vice versa. 90% of the audience there is looking for the word coche instead of auto. And so by using a generic translation, this isn't going to work in both markets. That's the point of localization, taking a step further and understanding the nuances of different keywords like this in each of the markets. What are localized websites? They're registered with a domain name. They have multilingual navigation. They're mobile enabled, design adaptation. They're adapted to the local language. They're hosted in market. They're optimized for these search engines. This is basically a long list here, but this is what we see as best practice. This is, this is what goes into a localized site that's going to gather your traffic and going to be able to get people to your website to, at the end of the day, sell them your products. And so how do you use these websites? What's the next step? I mean, you've got your international website up and running. But what happens? Well, digital strategies are going to be there to help you to create more events, more opportunities to connect. But how are these opportunities created? Ultimately, it's created through social media and search engine optimization. So just to, I know that I've got another section here that I want to share with you guys today, but through using the search engine optimization, it's the social media, your website is your best sales rep. It increases your SEO performance. It increases the blog content and the traffic that's relevant for your users. And it's also there to revamp and update your website as needed. So with that, and I have a quick sources there. By the way, Subu for the class, I have got this presentation here to share with you in a PDF form, so I can email it to you if it's something that you'd like to review. But in the time being, I'll just switch screens really quickly because I have just a few other examples that I wanted to share on the importance of website localization.
Sure. In the meantime, what do you guys think in the classroom? Do you find that these things are important in case if you are going to be dealing with, say, foreign supply chains, especially the customers in a foreign country? And that's exactly what this is. So when we talk about customers, we essentially use the word distribution channel, and your distribution channels are in a foreign country. Okay. Before we move on, and just a quick question, in our supply chains, we talk a lot about how do we source our inputs. So do you help with your customers in terms of sourcing their inputs from foreign countries, bring it into the US, and then they process it in the US? Do you do any of those type of activities in terms of, upstream?
Yeah, it's a good question. As far as the actual sourcing of the products, the actual making sure that the products arrive into the manufacturer or the producer of the products, that's not something that our company focuses on. What we do focus on is actually finding the suppliers, building their relationship in an online way. So it's more the beginning, the nurturing steps of kind of that relationship between manufacturer and supplier, and ensuring that the products come in through a steady flow by finding the right supplier.
Right. Thank you. Any questions?
And if I'm sharing my screen correctly, we should be seeing our homepage, the IBT.ONL.
Yes, we can see that. Okay,
perfect. Just to touch on our website here and also touch on a few different examples. IBT Online, again, we've built the online global programs, but I wanted to touch on some of the benefits here to give you a better view as to what a localized website does, what a search engine optimization does for our clients. Ultimately, for them, they're able to be found, to be understood, be easy to do business with. Through social media and search engine optimization, they're able to continue to grow their traffic, increase their engagement, increase the conversions that they have on the website. So this is more focused on lead generation, building a sales pipeline. But as Subu had mentioned, it's very important to support and develop the existing partnerships that you have. Some of these partnerships might be with other distributors, or they might be with other suppliers that they have in international markets. Not only to recruit them, but also to help leverage that relationship. Awareness, credibility, trust, being able to measure everything online is extremely important. And the last thing that I'll touch on here in this section is that especially in supply chain and also just in the international sales world, or just in life in general, something that's been increasingly more popular, increasingly more positive is being climate positive. it's being sustainable and being carbon green, not only with your companies but also with the exporting activities that you do. So being online is a way of being sustainable. It's a way of cutting your carbon cost as a company, as a manufacturer, as an agribusiness. Because you are online and you're able to interact with your clients in the same way that you would having been doing this in person. So one of the last things that I wanted to point out to you, and I guess just to really emphasize how websites work, and this example here is from one of our clients. They are called Fullerton Tools, here based in Michigan. Their fullertontools.com website showcases a lot of different products like end mills, drills, drill mills, reamers, routers, things like this. And their website is created so the fact that when you look at drill mills, for example, you want to be found on a search engine. So when I go to google.com and say I'm a client or say I'm a prospect, I'm looking up drill mills for my project, whatever it is, I type in drill mills, and just one of the first products on the first page here, we see Fullerton Tools pop up, and it's the exact web page that I was on. So this is the importance of SEO, search engine optimization, building your websites to be tailored for your audiences internationally and domestically. And to take it a step further, this is the Mexican website that we created for them. We have here fresas de punta, which is a Mexican keyword, a Mexican term on their Mexican website for end mills. So for any Mexican user or consumer of these products that's looking online, looking on Google, they would be typing in fresas de punta. And so for this is on google.com.mx. This is the Mexican search engine. It's all in Spanish. It's based for Mexico. I type in fresas de punta, and what comes up as the fourth search result, it's Fullerton Tools, and it's because of their Mexican website and the search engine optimization that they have involved on there. So again, if you were to click on the link, it goes straight back to their Mexican website. It's a lead generation tool for them, and it's able to attract new clients, new suppliers, new distributors, and effectively create more relationships online as opposed to just doing it in person. And so that's ultimately what I wanted to share with you today. I wanted to keep it more bare bones and brass tacks as far as the best practices that we see, but open up to any questions if there's anything that you guys have top of mind or anything that you were curious about.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Andrew. Actually, I remember clicking on many of the websites that are linked to their website, and all of them were in different languages. For a moment, I thought, wait a minute, we are in the Americas, but I was reading, Spanish and some other languages. So even there are some Chinese websites that you have created as well. And I was clicking on them, and that's when I realized that the specialty is actually in creating the localized web content. And why do they do that? So that they can be present in the country and they can appear on the top of the Google search results. Do you guys get that? So that's one important thing. Now, tell us what things do you do to get to the page number 1 in Google search results? We heard that word search engine optimization. So do you write a lot about, say, drill bits on the website a lot, so that Google, when it runs its algorithm, they will pick this Fullerton tool and say, hey, you know what? They are talking a lot about drill bits, so maybe I should show this to the customer who is searching for it. How does this work? I mean, it may be a little too technical. But we are business students, so we may not understand all the computer engineering behind that. But if we can talk to that, that would be nice.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it certainly is on the technical side of things, but Google ultimately determines how websites are ranked. And they have an algorithm on their own. A lot of people don't even understand their algorithm fully because it is so complex. But ultimately, things like quantity, for example, when we go back to the example of drill mills for Fullerton Tools, they say drill mills, X amount of times on their website. They have X amount of traffic and users going to their website. They have X amount of blogs and resources that are related to drill mills, which at the end of the day tells Google, they tell them directly and saying, we are relevant when it comes to drill mills, put us at the top of the search query. So, another example, just off the top of my head, if you were to type in, phones online, what's the first thing that's going to come up? Either Apple or Samsung. And it's because of the amount of content that they have on their websites, because of their brand recognition, that Google understands that they come up as one and number two. And there's nothing else that is able to slip through the cracks. So, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot that goes into how to be ranked number one. But it definitely comes into the quantity of words used, and it's also the quality, how well is it used in different blogs, in resources, in relevant content made for those consumers.
Yeah, that's these are all some nice things that I have read and I have understood, but then, I won't say that I am an expert in SEOs or anything like that at all. But there is a lot of potential, that's where the website designers, they can come and help you to make sure that your website appears at the top of the things. Okay, now you have worked with a lot of different customers and they have given their support on how they have benefited by working with you. Can you share, you already showed us that full reference tool. With regard to agriculture, I believe there are 1 or 2 websites or 1 or 2 customers that you have worked with. Do you find any difficulties or different type of situations when it comes to agricultural products versus non-agricultural products? Have you been involved with anything along those lines with agricultural products?
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good question, because agriculture is one of the 2 main industries that we focus on. It's either manufacturing or agricultural. So for us, it's easy to separate the 2 and understand the pros and cons of working with each. When it comes to agriculture clients, we do see that there's more challenges to adaptation to the online world. And it's a more traditional industry. It's a more grassroots industry in the way that what they understand what works, and they haven't yet fully taken advantage of the online world. With that being said, I mean, some of our agricultural clients, haven't even built a US website, let alone, looking into international websites. And so this is a major difference for us, is the actual awareness of the online world, awareness of, another avenue of revenue, of income, of relationship building, that hasn't yet been an important topic for them at this point in time. Whereas opposed to manufacturers, a lot more savvy, a lot more tech savvy, that are geared and more equipped to take on things like localized websites. But the thing in agriculture is that they need websites, localized search engine marketing, or just an online presence as a whole, just as much as a manufacturer, just as much as another company that is looking to sell their products overseas. It's something that is all inclusive and helps everybody, but for some reason we see that agriculture is kind of slower to the punchline. Okay,
good. Yeah, so I was just I kind of split the screen in our classroom computer, and I'm showing them one another, Mountain States Oilseeds LLC, and that is a customer that you have worked with. And I was just showing them the website, and I think they have been selling in Japan. I did not go to their website before. I'm just looking at that. So, I mean, I can ask many questions, but then I want to open it to the students. Why do you think this oilseed company has their information in Japanese, focusing on obviously the Japanese customers, as opposed to some other country, some other language? Do you guys get that? So you have to understand. So that brings us to another question. Do you provide research support for your customers? Or the customers, do they come and say, hey, you know what, we want a Japanese website, can you make it? Or they come and ask you which foreign country we should sell in, tell us, and we will create a website for that customer. How does it work when it comes to working with your company?
Yeah. I mean, they certainly come to us for different market research, or just research in general. There are also a lot of organizations out there that are helpful to understanding different markets, or understanding how exactly to tackle a market. Some of these might be SBCs, short for small business development centers, or economic development agencies. For example, in Ohio, they have the Ohio SBDC, which is a great helping hand for clients. It's actually a free resource that a lot of our clients use. But yeah, our team understands the importance of, okay, well, there's a company that's looking at Mexico, but why? Why are they looking at Mexico? Is it worth going into Mexico to find a new supplier or find a new distributor? And a lot of this information can be found online. A lot of this information could be gathered through either researchers within that market, or just by doing different trials and testing through creating a Mexican website to understand the traffic that's incoming and say, okay, well, it is worth it to then build out operations, in those markets.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of an interesting thing, and you will be expected to do research depending upon the type of product that you are dealing with. Okay, and that is why I have already introduced a couple of websites, but we went really fast. We haven't spent some time on researching it, and I expect some of you are doing that as part of your homework assignments and things like that. Okay, so having said that, ask your questions. I don't want to keep on hogging that question time. So what do you think? Many of the things that he talks about as part of global supply chains is nothing but marketing and sales. Do you guys notice that? Which are essentially other courses. You guys get that? So that is how marketing and supply or sales kind of interact with the supply chain or the distribution channels that you are developing. And you have to reach out to that. And that was something that is very relevant, And actually, Andrew would be a very good speaker in my marketing and sales class as well, I guess. Maybe I will reach out to him down the road. But then, that's something that we have to think about. How all these different aspects of things come together. So you mentioned something about lead generation, that they can find a good customer in a foreign country. Let us say that they want to sell their oil seeds. How do we know that we can send our product and we will get paid? What type of assurances are there? Do you engage with your customers on, is it just you create a website and then they are on their own, or do you also provide extra support in the form of having another, wing of it in Japan or in Mexico so that they can provide that extra support for those customers to interact with the clients in the US? Do you provide any of those type of services?
So in terms of actually converting the leads, you're asking if we provide services to, like, okay, a lead comes in, we'll take care of it type?
Yeah, exactly. Do you do anything like that? Or they work with you, you provide them with the website and then the research, market research, and then they try to establish their own contacts on their own.
Yeah, no, I think I get what you're saying. I think from our point of view, we don't actually do the services. I mean, as a marketing agency, as agency in general, we don't necessarily have the industry experience or industry knowledge or even company knowledge, with all of our clients that we have. We've got over 500 clients, so it's tough for us to say, okay, well, we can provide these services for you or sell your products for you, since we don't necessarily have all that knowledge for us. So we instead are a helping hand for our clients. I mean, we're here to support them when it comes to the translations that come in, or the different questions that come in from their consumers or clients that they have. We can be a helping hand and support them, but in terms of actually driving their leads into clients or customers, unfortunately, that's not something that.
That's yeah, that's good. So that's where you may need some other type of help. And he mentioned something about that Small Business Development Council. Have you heard that name before? SBDC. They are a big nonprofit. In fact, it's a governmental arm. I think it's a part of the Small Business Administration. Have you gone to sba.gov website? You should do that. Okay, if you are in business, and especially if you're planning to start and run your own small businesses and even farm businesses, you will get a lot of information there, and they will even provide you with grants and loans that are actually of low interest rates and things like that. So they are some things that you need to be aware of, and going to those places will also help you understand how you can lay out new supply chains or find new customers. And in this case, it's in foreign countries. Do you guys get that? So I just wanted to plug that supply chain component of it. So I have another question. Okay, I have too many questions. Before that question, what about questions in this class right now? Do you find it relevant? Yeah. Okay, if you don't find it relevant yet, believe me, 5 to 10 years from now, at least 2 of you will be working with a foreign client. I will assure you that, okay, because that is the type of world we are living in. Any questions from the online students? I believe we have 7 students. Tyler, Nick, Morgan, Katie, Grace, Gabe, Andrew. Oh no, Andrew is our speaker, I'm sorry. Gabe, go ahead. I think you were about to say something.
I don't have any questions. I'm all good. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Carter, I think I probably forgot to mention Carter's name. So no questions? Come on, Andrew is waiting for your questions actually. Now, I don't know whether Andrew picked on this or not. I am originally from India, okay? And so I lived in India for like, what, 25 years or something like that. And whenever I see something like made in USA, I'm like, wow, that's a made in USA perfume. I want that because it's high quality. Okay, so is that what your clients are actually trying to do when they sell their products, say in Japan or Mexico or Canada or UK or any other place? Is that what, is it like made in USA, high quality product? Is that the angle that you drive as part of promoting the products with those foreign clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. It's not necessarily something that we drive. It's something that we support. And because of organizations like you mentioned, Subu, like the SBA or like the U.S. Commercial Services, I mean, that's what they emphasize. They say, emphasize that these are made in the U.S. products. These are quality products, whether it's from a manufacturer or from an agribusiness perspective. Made in the USA is certainly something that is driven, but it's also important to have a complete dedicated presence. A great example of this for me that I think about is Red Bull. Red Bull is so involved in American sports and American culture and the drink industry here, so much so that you might think that it's an American company, when in fact they're based in Austria. And this is kind of the way that you have to look at your international markets. They have such a dedicated presence to the U.S., to other international markets, that it's almost seen as they're an American company, although they're Austrian born and raised. Okay, yeah, that kind of that's kind of rather very surprising. Sometimes many of the business practices are the brands that you come across, and if you start looking closely into their operations, which is essentially the supply chain or the distribution channels, you'll be amazed at what is happening. I came across one example of, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. They are not just marketing only their products, even some of the products, some of the brands that they will be packaging, they will processing, and they will be distributing that as well as part of their supply chain. So, there are very interesting business arrangements that you can come up with, and in this case, Red Bull is an example of how a foreign brand has become embraced in the US. That's a nice thing for you to think about. Having said that, questions. I already told you on Monday that we need more questions. Maybe I should give you an assignment to write questions. Yeah, go ahead, please.
What's the best way for a smaller, like startup company to promote itself through its brand, like brand identity?
I'm sorry, just to repeat the question, smaller startup to create their brand?
Yeah, brand identity. How can they create a brand identity?
Yeah, I mean, what's the easiest, the most simple way and has the most impact? It's to create a website, just to create resources, products, services, information about your website. I mean, no matter how small you are, for whichever keyword that you so choose to define your company by, you could be ranked #1 for. And it's something that could be free. It's if you're a small startup in the shoe industry and decide to create as many blogs and resources as possible for a certain type of shoe. Like, for example, I don't know, soccer cleats. You could potentially be ranked on the first page, ranked #1 on Google, just because of the amount of content that Google might find you relevant for. So, I mean, for me, and from my perspective, it'd be creating a website, first and foremost, just to not only get the brand out there, but also, increase the sales too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The moment you create a website, anybody in the world can access it. And then you have to start promoting that through, say, Facebook or through other types of social media and things like that. That's a really good starting point. It can cost you money, but then there are also resources that are available for free where you will be able to develop it yourself. In fact, if you start a blog and you show yourself to be a subject matter expert when it comes to, say, raising animals or feeding them, or making sure that they are well cared for, or growing crops. There are various ways how you can establish yourself, and that will drive search engine to your website. You get that? So that is where I'm going ultimately. So there are multiple ways of doing things. Just a quick thing. So let me share my screen. So I was looking into your website, and you had a comparison of different countries, I assume. I believe it's somewhere here. I don't remember exactly where. Like you had compared the US with that of, say, Italy in terms of your population and things like that. Where can we find those things?
By the way, I think you're sharing the just an opening presentation slide, but I believe if you go to the resources site, you're looking for information on country to country, like online statistics.
Yes.
If you go to the resources, and under resources, there's infographics.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Where is that? Oh,
And the infographics show a lot of market to market comparisons, market to market information based off of the online worlds and online spheres in those countries.
yeah, this is exactly what I was looking at. And you can see that, you can see different countries. And when you click on that, it kind of tells what is the particular potential in case if you want to sell your product, say, in Belgium. How does it compare? What type of things are going on? So this is a part of conducting market research. You might have done it in your marketing class. Otherwise, in an international business class, anybody taken international business in API so far? There's another class where you will come across these type of comparisons as well. So these are all very useful things for you to know when you are dealing with a foreign customer. So since this is dealing with the foreign customers, Andrew, what can you tell us about cultural differences? How do you address that when it comes to, you already mentioned how the word car is being used in Mexico versus Spain, how the differences between them. In addition to that, what are the things that the students can learn in terms of cultural differences that they can use down the road in their future careers?
Yeah, I mean, culture means a lot when you look at the online world, the online space, as much as it does when you're in another market, another country. One of the most clear and defined example that I can provide to you when it's relevant to a website is like Middle Eastern, Saudi Arabia speaking Arabic, or United Arab Emirates, or Qatar, or Egypt. All of these websites are completely different to what you would imagine in a US website. First and foremost, their language is read from right to left instead of left to right here. But also everything that they have expecting on a website. We see that the logo on a website is oftentimes found on the left side of the screen. For them, it's always found on the right side of the screen, and the design elements are completely different depending on that language and that culture. And so it does impact the online world and in that market. Another example that I can give is how I guess how you reflect your brand from market to market. I'm thinking back to Red Bull right now because they're such a huge and well-known global brand here in the US. They're known for their beverages. They push out, the Red Bull drinks. through the Red Bull carts and whatever, and the branding that they have in the US is completely different than what they have in Europe. In Europe, they might be more proud about the fact that they have an F1, a Formula One team, and that's what they push out instead of the drinks. Just to say that it depending on what the market is and how that culture sees your brand might be different, or your marketing tactics might change and evolve depending on how your company is seen.
Good. Thank you. They are all kind of, the cultural differences I talked a lot about in my international business class in the past, as well as in my marketing class when it comes to the foreign customers and things. Just changing gears a little bit. I hope you have a few minutes. We have just 5 or 6 minutes left. What would you tell in terms of career advice for a sophomore in Ohio, in Ohio State University? What would you tell? What kind of skills should they develop if they want to be successful down the road in the area of business?
In business, wow, yeah, it's been a few years since I was a sophomore in college in Ohio. But I mean, I think the best advice that I could give you is definitely get out there and network, meet as many people, but also companies as possible. I know for me, one of the best things that I had, one of the best opportunities that I had as a sophomore in college was an internship in business. It didn't even matter what the position was, but it was with an organization. It was with a company. It gave me the perspective of what business is. And that kind of carried me forward to find my career afterwards. But I mean, first and foremost, it's networking. I know that sometimes it can be a bit nerve-wracking to meet new people, nerve-wracking to meet new companies, to network, to understand what they do and understand how they can help you. And believe me, I'm an introvert. I'm shy. I am not the most outgoing individual, but if there's anything that you can take away, it's definitely just to meet more people, to find more opportunities, because you never know when your next opportunity might come up. I've had opportunities come up because there was some dude that I met at a conference, and he came by and said, "Hey, actually, I'm interested in your products. I'm interested in your services," or, "Hey, I've got this job offer for you, or this position that I think you'd be a great fit for." So the more people we know, the better you're going to be off.
Good. Networking, in fact, that is one of the most critical piece of advice you can ever get as a college student. Okay, and that is very important. How many of you have LinkedIn profiles? And that is something that everybody should develop and should pay attention to. Right now, you may not have a lot of information in it. Actually, Andrew, I sent your LinkedIn profile to our class so that they will have access to it. And some of them may send you a connection request. So hopefully you will accept it so that you can be in touch. And you do have access to this LinkedIn profile. Okay, and I encourage you to interact with say these kind of invited speakers in our classroom. This is a part of networking. You can start as you are hearing that, you are doing it. Make sense? The only thing is, what are your next steps? How are you going to network? How are you going to connect? How are you going to continue the conversation? That is where the real difference lies. Okay, so take that advice pretty seriously. And I have been typing very actively on the chat box. Andrew might have been surprised. Even my students would have been surprised. But I type it because Zoom saves it, and I will be able to send it to the students in an email. That is what I will be doing. So you do have access to these links and other things that I have been typing there. Okay. So there are some questions coming up on that in your midterm exam. What did you learn from the invited speakers in the classroom? Like that? Okay. So that is something like a resource that you can save for your future reference as well. Hopefully you will save it. Okay. So having said that, nobody has asked any questions except you. Okay. So maybe you should finish up with one more question for us. I'm sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but.
Yeah, how does the government play a role in how your search engines operate? Because I imagine, like you mentioned, the Middle East. I can imagine there's some like governmental control on what they can view and what they cannot view. So how does a business get by that, or do they just not market themselves to places like that?
Yeah, did you hear the question? That was a really good question.
Yeah, actually, it was a really good question. It was it was just to reiterate, it was governmental restrictions and controls on different markets and how, businesses are done. It's I mean, it's especially evident when you look at countries like China or Russia, for example, right now. Like these are obviously very tough markets to do business with, if at all. But the online sphere is completely different. When you look at the online in China, it's so difficult to get a domain name and to be, to have an online presence in China, that you have to go through the government's multi-month process. You have to apply and have, addresses within China. You have to have people living within China. You have to have different licenses to even operate within China. And that's let alone the fact of getting a domain name and being within the firewall, the Chinese firewall that they have there. So there are quite a lot of restrictions when it comes to not only doing business there, but also interacting online within those markets. In China, I mean, it's definitely foremost the biggest one that we have challenges with. Obviously, Russia for other reasons. There's a lot of companies that are now deciding not to build their online presence in Russia or anything to do or associated with that because of how the government is stepping in. But there's a lot of restrictions, not only with our government, but also with the foreign governments that our companies interact with just to even be involved in those markets.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and Andrew really touched upon some important points when it comes to dealing with foreign customers, and it's all not rosy picture, right? There can always be issues, and these are the issues that you need to negotiate if you are going to deal with a customer with a different type of mindset, with a different type of socio-economy, economy, as well as political background, situations and things like that. That's a really good question. Anyways, thank you, Andrew. We really appreciate your time. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thanks for being here. This was really a wonderful start for our invited speaker series, and we have a few more coming up in the coming days. So thank you very much. I'll be in touch, and I think I already sent you a connection request on LinkedIn, and we will be in touch over there. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Have a good day.
Bye. Okay, so any questions for the students in the classroom, online or here? Do you find it useful? Okay, it may not be exactly what we are talking about, but we are talking about customers, and that's exactly what we talked about. The only thing is it's customers from the angle of international customers, not necessarily domestic customers. And we will continue our conversation on domestic customers or international or private. Okay, thank you very much. And there are some pieces of homework due tonight, so please do fill that out. So you'll be here on Friday, right? Please do come to the class. I will keep the Zoom open, but we don't want to abuse it. Okay, thank you. Gabe, Katie, Morgan, any questions?
I do not have any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't make it in. I don't really feel too well.
Oh, okay, no problem. Take care.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Subu.